End of, it's the 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 end.
Where is the end, Jay? Where is the end of that?
Oh my god.
Welcome
It's
back.
The end.
Whoa. Is it the end of your sentence?
Of Game of Thrones. So the end of Game of Thrones. The series finale has just happened. We've literally just pressed stop. I'm sorry.
This is very exciting.
It's really fucking emotional.
Before we get there,
Sorry.
just put a pin in that for 1 second.
It's the end of. It's the end.
Welcome
Oh, hi.
to another episode of
Thrones
Judgecast.
Judgecast
Thrown
Thrones
Down. We're so in sync tonight. With myself, Joe Bowden, and this guy
Jay Taylor.
has some far more positive Jay Taylor than we
than
saw
last week.
7 days ago. So,
Joe.
the episode,
So
the
much has
final,
happened.
the finale, the last ever episode of Game of Thrones.
The Iron Throne.
Oh, we
Yeah,
made
we're
that
back
one
in sync.
work. Hello.
It's because I sat on the armchair tonight and you sat on the sofa. Wow.
Wow.
I don't know where to start because like you're right. Do we start on the reaction from last week and the whole shitstorm that started after that? Or do we just go straight onto this?
No, I think whilst it's fresh in our heads, whilst we're feeling a certain way, let's talk about the episode we just watched,
And
the finale.
if you're new to us and you're just coming in at the end of these,
Where have you been?
but also
no, thank you very much for listening.
we
really
are going
appreciate
straight
it.
into spoilers. We're going straight into spoilers. So, yeah,
Beware.
Joe. When has a series finale ever done it for you? Because I think any of our listeners know you're an X-Files fan. Did that series finale, or whichever of the series finale, work for you?
Of the X-Files?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel like we're doing the wrong episode here.
No, just very quick.
No.
No.
Oh, no. Well, season 7, the first
Okay.
series finale. Yes. Kind of.
There are some shows that are, like amazing. Sopranos ends well. Breaking Bad ends amazingly. There are some that don't always end so well. Like Lost is an amazing series, but maybe didn't end in the way.
I think a second watch of Lost will probably make it feel more satisfying.
Yes.
I think there was so much riding on that when you watched it live.
But there was so much riding on this. And there was so much from season 7 and season 8. And yet, I loved tonight's episode.
You loved it. I'm prepared to say I really liked it. I think I probably loved it, but it takes a lot for me to love.
Yeah.
And as you should know.
Hashtag I win.
Now I'm beginning to think that they made last week so bad, so our expectations would be so low to fuck with our heads.
I don't know.
But also, I think it was actually good. I don't think it was because I was like at the point of going, should I even bother watching it? Which I obviously was gonna because I'm a completist.
I've been trying to work this out in my brain. Was it good because it was a finale? Was it good because it was the end? Was it good because it tied up so many characters, bows, and all of that lot? Or was it just a great episode as well? That's what I've been trying to work out.
Oh, so if you watch this in isolation,
does
with a little bit of understanding of what's just happened.
Exactly. Does this stand up with Battle of the Bastards? Does this stand up with like so many of other great episodes?
It had a lot more sections to it than those big episodes, which usually just sort of focus on one storyline, which this did, but it was very. If this was a piece of music, it would be like the whole of Bach's Goldberg Variations, rather than a cohesive one piece like
and
anything else.
That's what I'm trying to say. Is I think it really, I think it really worked. Like it gave so much time and story. Like all of the fallout from Dany. It gave a lot of time. So after all the backlash of last week of it was a massacre, not even a massacre, it was a...
No, I think a massacre is the apt word, yeah.
it was so devastating, and they allowed that devastation to sit, not just with us as viewers, but with characters. They allowed you to see that thought process. Like, it really gave time, and it gave a lot of kind of nuances that maybe we weren't expecting. I think we were expecting Tyrion and Dany to come to blows head to head, but giving that Jon Snow and Grey Worm side of things, of the duty and the like, it was more layers than I was expecting. I was expecting it to just go to the end, and the kind of Dany being killed being the end, and it gave so much more.
So much more. To the point where, even though we all knew that Dany's arc kind of had to come to an end now, because she couldn't, well, unless we're going to leave it on the darkest of timelines,
Yeah.
They couldn't just leave her in charge of it. Well, that's it then. Everyone's unhappy. We knew that she was probably going to have to die. And to do it at the point that they did, in the way that they did, was a genuine shock. And I felt like it made the episode step up a gear. It was like, oh, we're not playing around here.
Because also that was halfway through.
Was that halfway?
I think you're roughly. That was our cat Ziggy.
He's got some thoughts. He obviously thinks they're quite menacing because he played the lower end of the piano, whereas when he's happy, he plays the high end.
But yeah, like it really gave. Yeah, it gave so much credence to all of that side of things. But then, as you say, I wasn't expecting. I half expected a couple of times for there to be those stabs out of nowhere. You know, when a character
literal stabs out of nowhere.
Yeah. You know, when a character's just walked. So when she was looking at the Iron Throne, I did wonder whether there was going to be like a stab in the back moment with Jon, and she'd do that thing that is in so many fantasy and sci-fi films of the character turning and looking at who stabbed them and going.
And we don't get to see them.
To Jon Snow. Yeah. And it could have been Davos. It could have been. And I was expecting it then. And then with her whole speech and the whole kind of romance rekindling, and the chemistry crackled in that scene. The chemistry with them two crackled.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I felt it did.
Well, because just before he stabbed her, I was like to say, oh my God, that's so cheesy. And then I was like, oh, they needed to make it cheesy for this to land. Like, it works when you see the whole scene rather than making a comment halfway through like a dickhead like me.
And I think, they've come under the writers and directors this week. Benioff and Weiss have come under a lot of flack for sometimes going too hard against subverting our cultural, the things that we're expecting. Sometimes they go too hard in subverting that and they get flack for that. Sometimes they get flack for doing the obvious, oh God, none of us were expecting that, And actually tonight, I think they really trod the perfect balance of, and somehow did it before all of the fan stuff came out on Twitter, of they did the whole, yep, we've got your people that think that Sam is going to be George R.R. Martin. We got that little nod there, but we're going to subvert it a little bit by making it clear that it's definitely not a Song of Ice and Fire, because Tyrion's not in there. We're going to give you the last ship of Dany and Jon and the kiss, and we're going to subvert it with kind of a... It wasn't one of those et tu brute deaths.
What's an et tu brute?
Like Caesar looking at Brutus and going, et tu brute.
Sorry, Julius Caesar spoke French?
Well, there was...
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's Latin.
Et tu would be and you in French. I don't think it's Latin. I mean, I was very bad at Latin.
I think it's from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar.
Well, then, yeah, he probably would have made him speak French, because I don't think he spoke Latin.
I thought that was a really common. I thought that was a really common phrase, but
I've never read Shakespeare's Julius Caesar.
But just in terms, like, even if you haven't read it, I figured it was like this kind of.
Yeah. Well, I've learned something.
Of March. Okay,
thanks. Yeah.
But yeah, like, they could have really hammed that up, and although it was slightly hammy with the kiss, it kind of subverted it for me by having it. I don't know.
Oh, totally.
And then Drogon.
Within like 5 seconds, I was like, oh, I get it. It totally works now.
Yeah.
But leading up to that, I was like, because I was ready to not for this to not be so good.
Yeah. But then, like 5 minutes before that, or 2 minutes before that, they'd had all three of us, so our friend Carly watched it with us this week, all three of us genuinely gasped thinking that Jon Snow was about to execute Tyrion on Dany's orders. In that scene when he went...
When he visited him in his cell. And yeah.
And he said something like, which makes this even harder. We all went... we'd just come off the back of that and
I just about prepared myself for Tyrion to die, which I was not happy about, but I was preparing myself for, but not at the hands of Jon.
No,
it's not like I'm a huge Jon fan, but
they'd had
not at the hands of Jon.
They'd had such a nice chemistry from the first few episodes where
at the thingy, the wall,
at the wall, but even he stops those boys from killing Jon. Yeah, and he has a drink with him and he pees off the wall with him. They had built up that relationship enough.
Yeah, but we just haven't seen it for so long.
They've not been together, And it was just, we then thought, there was a moment where I thought, fucking hell, Jon Snow's going to be burnt alive.
Well, I really liked that. I really liked that. Basically, what they're saying is Drogon is the most sensible person in the whole show.
They've always said that the dragons are very empathic and very clever, very intelligent.
Very clever.
Yeah.
I think he probably could have done that ages ago, given that he can fly.
Yeah, and breathe fire.
Really strong, all of this stuff.
No,
but hey, that's fine.
He needed to see that his mother was also corrupted by it.
Yes, that's true. That was what snapped. I thought that despite him being a CGI dragon, him warning Daenerys was actually really beautifully done. I'm a sucker for those sorts of things anyway. An animal mourning their owners. I'm like, oh no.
It's really interesting because getting into the show in season 1, you get a couple of shots of very normal zombies. They're not huge makeup zombies. They're just kind of slightly icy zombies and now we're at a point with full CGI dragon wings appearing out of the back, the framing where Dany walks out and Drogon's wings behind her. Then that beautiful moment where he rose up with the snow, and it's I'm full on invested in a fantasy thing with really the dragon really had something tonight.
Oh, he looked great. They couldn't afford for him to not look great, right?
Yeah.
However, most scenes of Emilia Clarke, and now I really like Emilia Clarke. I'm a Daenerys fan. I know what happened last week, obviously, but I still am a Daenerys fan. If she hadn't have massacred all those people, she deserved to die.
You want to break the wheel?
I don't really get what that means. No, but several scenes of Emilia Clarke looked like she was being green screened. And even if she was, it shouldn't look like it.
I thought that with Sansa at the end as well.
Well, I'm wondering
really
either they did
do
that, or is it more about is it a my eyes playing tricks on me because her hair obviously is so blonde, and it was in such a dark, lots of smoke and all this sort of fire and all this stuff going on around her. Was it just my eyes making me feel like it looked that way?
I'm sure,
was it stark resolution?
I'm sure half the snow
stark resolution.
I'm sure half the snow and ash was CGI. I imagine there was, a lot of visual tweaking, but I didn't get that, so that's interesting.
Okay.
I didn't feel that she was matte painted on.
No, just maybe that there were 2 scenes in one, 2 for the price of 1.
2 for the price of 1.
But that's fine.
It feels so nice to feel really positive about this episode, and I don't think there were any real moments where I was kind of oh, okay. As we all knew, it was going to get a bit Return of the King-y. That moment.
Oh, I'm surprised they didn't do more. Actually, it was in about 5-10 minutes of Return of the King-y.
Yeah, and
by that we mean the goodbyes.
The goodbyes, and actually, they did it quite well. So the goodbye to the King's Landing lot had a really nice kind of bookend. I'm actually surprised that wasn't the end of the episode when they slow pan out from Tyrion as the new hand with Bronn, Davos, Brienne.
The full circle moment.
And it was, and they were just slowly panning out as
something out of season 1.
They were talking about the same shit of,
Bronn was a bit of a dick, actually. I always think he was quite funny, but now he's just actually a bit of a dick.
Well, he's always been a dick because he's always been in wartime, so everything's, soldiers doing stuff. It's always given that kind of shit of, well, you've just put yourself in front of the in the fantasy realm of Game of Thrones.
So he lives fast, dies fast,
yeah,
kind of thing.
And that's what he always said. He said, I don't know, I'll go out fucking and drinking, and he always said that to. And then now it's like, no, now you're in a position of power, and it's kind of like the politicians in this country of when they're in their Bullington club smashing up a pricey restaurant in Oxford, it's like, but then when you give them the power to do that and smash up the NHS, it's not so funny anymore.
Oh, I was about to say that's a bit harsh on Bronn. And for our American listeners, look up the Bullington Club. You'll
they
be
fuck pigs.
Absolutely shocked. Yeah, no, but actually I can kind of see where you're coming from there. Yeah, I
just
get
in that way that
that
his pithy kind of selfish nature now doesn't sit well because he's actually talking about serious stuff like, no, we need coin for ships and people and food
and prostitutes.
But him making those jokes, if he'd made them in, when he didn't have power, it's a completely different thing, and that's how I read that.
I agree. But that's a perfect way to round up the politics of the show.
Exactly.
Because actually we did kind of need to see where some other characters were going.
Absolutely.
I absolutely loved seeing Sansa being crowned queen.
It was lovely.
And yeah,
but
it was actually. I found that a little bit emotional.
Yeah,
I thought that was really.
We've got to talk about it. No one, and I mean no one I've seen, has ever put Bran as the king.
Of all the stuff I have read online,
I'm sure there are some people.
I have yet to see anyone go for Bran the Broken.
I'm sure there are some people.
But that was a clever misdirect.
It was great.
I'm going to hand it to whether it's George R.R. Martin or D.B. Wise or David Bennett, whoever's decision it was. That was clever to sideline Bran so that no one suspected it. How can't I say this? Suspected it of him.
You've been Spectre Clouseau. Suspected it.
But yeah. But also, now it's happened. I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Why did no one think of that?
I genuinely didn't know how they were going to do that scene. And the fact that it was the teasing. They teased us with Sam standing up. And you literally stood up and went, oh, because you thought your democracy idea,
but my democracy joke. I said it as a joke, thinking, well, that won't happen. And the fact that they even
and they
teased
it. And they teased on the kind of, they gave a little bit of that because it technically is a little bit of democracy because they are allowing a bit more choice.
Is there such a thing as a little bit of democracy?
Okay. In terms of a very monarchistic,
it's a step.
It's a step towards that. And then they also gave us Sansa being crowned.
And standing up for her region.
And giving herself that. They also gave us, I mean, I don't want to get into political allegories of
regions.
And segregating themselves from the wider kind of...
Oh, shit. Oh, no. It's Sansa Nigel Farage. Do I need to throw a milkshake at her? No, because I'm vegan.
George R.R. Martin is basing this on very old English and European politics, like,
go on, because I've got a joke and I want you to...
you go for it.
I really like that they call it... I know it's a bit harsh on him, but I like that they're calling him Bran the Broken because finally there is a monarchy name that is a little less harsh than Ethelred the Unready.
Ethelred.
Now, I think that's a real name. Or did I get that from Eddie Izzard?
I'm pretty sure it's a real name. Ethelred the Unready.
I've always thought it's just a real dickish name.
How has Eddie Izzard come up 3 times this week alone?
Because he is awesome.
But yeah, I think you have to kind of... There are obviously allegories in terms of fantasy, but I kind of distance myself from that. So, yeah, getting that Sansa moment was lovely. Like, it really... And to have
She earned it.
Yeah, and you also got the Tyrion moment because he he got as good as he could. You know what I mean? Like
this whole episode was a Tyrion moment.
Oh my god!
This was Tyrion's episode, and I'm so glad because he's obviously the best character.
They knew what they were doing.
Yeah, and he really got to shine in so many different levels.
Almost every scene.
And essentially,
almost every scene.
He created the new world in one place while still in chains.
Yeah.
Like, he decided who was king and what happens.
He decided that was the way forward.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
He's a fucking legend.
And
I'm
that
so
beautiful first 5 minutes of him just walking through. And, you know, you can't do that with a lot of actors. Of all they have is basically their face.
Well, like the top 2/3 of their face.
Top 2/3 of their face.
So close cut, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
Or maybe I was just staring at him.
No, but that's how I felt. It was really close in on him. And, you know, in a lot of films, you'd have someone running to someone in aid and kind of, oh, are you okay? You know, and having a lot of dialogue with it. And like,
he doesn't need that.
That first moment when he walked past that, I think basically burned like 4th degree burns. And
when you saw the back of him, like, you could see his exposed muscles.
And
he
wasn't
back.
screaming, going, please, please. It was so cold. And that first 5 minutes it did a lot of repairing from how we maybe came off at the end of last week's.
There was one thought that came to mind once Tyrion got to like the base, the ground floor of the Red Keep, and I suddenly thought, hang on, was that guy who walked past him the mountain? Did he survive fire as well, but deflated? And just sort of burn off all the excess bits of him that the reviving the Frankenstein bit did. Not nice. He's just walking around going, I'm burnt.
Well, no, so he burnt off the Mr. Hyde, and now he's just Dr. Jekyll. It's taken away that kind of...
I don't think the mountain has a Dr. Jekyll.
But no, the only thing that we were slightly worried in those first 5-10 minutes is when he did get to the Red Keep.
Oh
and
my
he
god!
Stood in the room with the map, and then he started to climb downstairs, and then he saw the gap, and then he saw the hand, and we were like, "No, don't find them alive, please! Don't find them alive."
Oh my god! Like, if they'd have survived the Red Keep falling on them, I think I would have thrown this microphone through the television.
They were tricking us because that's what would have happened in so many films.
Well, yes, it's almost like they did that on purpose.
Exactly.
To fuck with us.
Exactly it. Fan expectations can sometimes, and not even just fans, but cultural expectations. How many films have you seen where someone goes through the rubble of an entire building? I'm looking at you, lots of superhero films, and then the one person that they managed to find through just a hand poking through some rubble.
I'm just going to chalk it up to poetic license that he went straight to them. Yeah, but that basement's massive. Basement. The basement of the Red Keep, where like the youth hang out with their sofas and get stoned.
Drinking their White Lightning. Pack of Benson.
It's time. Last week's episode, but I mean both in our podcast and of the show, obviously, we were both very disappointed.
Yeah. I think that was quite clear.
Yes, and I actually stick by that.
Yeah, I stick by that as a fan of the TV show. We did not like an episode. It's not that we fucking hated the show or anything like that, or the creators.
Well, no, we were disappointed in what we saw, and we thought that more could have been done. But and I think there's been some really good criticism. I think we've retweeted quite a bit of the criticism that we've gone. Yeah, that's picking it really well. Yeah. But also there's this whole thing about this petition to get it the whole of season 8 remade.
Yeah, because that's a legitimate thing, isn't it?
As if that's possible. B, what a fucking kick in the teeth for the creators and all the people who've worked on this show. And what a waste of money and effort. Like, that's what fan fiction is for, people.
We nearly tweeted a tweet saying how ridiculous that petition was, and then we actually considered it and went, I'm not even going to fuel the fire.
But it got like a shocking amount of signatures.
Yeah, but that's because it's just one of the reasons that we watch shows and we read books and we love comics and culture and music is A, because we love them, but B, because there's an enjoyment talking about them. and discussing them. And like, we love this show. There's a reason that we've podcasted about it and watched it with friends and talked about it with loads of different friends and people on the internet and across the board. And we continue to do that. Just because we watched one episode that we didn't particularly like some of the character arcs or the developments that the creators took, doesn't mean A, we're going to stop watching it, or B, that it's down to them to fucking please us. Like, and that's what that petition kinds of come across as. It's like, you have a duty to please me. It's like, no, that's I find that.
Yeah, and I guess all of us who are saying like, oh, I didn't like it, it could come across that in that way, but there's also a duty to, I was about to say criticise because that only has a negative, but to feed back.
Review,
to be able to have that kind of critical look at it.
Absolutely.
Whether that's good critical, bad critical.
Yeah. I'm sure there are people that may not like the Iron Throne. They may feel that this is completely the antithesis of why they've watched the show.
Well, this is the thing with
and I'd be happy to talk about that because we've had a really positive experience.
And that's what I found really interesting about with doing these episodes, these reviews of Game of Thrones, straight after watching them, is that we're doing this completely in isolation of anyone else's opinions. Yeah. And I'm not, God, that sounds like I'm tooting our own horn. But it's more the interesting thing of then going, okay, what does the rest of the world think now? And that was weird last week going, oh, we're not the only ones. There were some people who enjoyed it as well. And that is not because, as many people keep tweeting, we didn't understand the arc of Daenerys. We knew Daenerys was going to go crazy. It just didn't feel quite earned at this point. And and we didn't need to rehash last week's episode. But yes, I am a bit irritated when I see that thing of people who don't like last week's episode don't understand this show. It's like, that's not fair.
Yeah, that's culture, and we don't all have to agree on something, but it's that accusational side of things that is where it becomes really aggressive and it becomes really mean-spirited, and that's where I think kind of fandom and criticism become a negative. And against both sides.
Yeah, and the fact is that all of our opinions are valid.
Yeah.
So being able to say that, you just don't understand this, or or you're wrong, like that one always pisses me off. You're wrong.
Your
and
opinion
I'm sure,
is not valid.
I say that hands up held up high. I'm sure I've said that before.
Yeah.
But it's actually all about our experience of it.
Absolutely, and just and accepting other people's. And I think the one thing that we've really wanted to come across and say after we maybe had some negative reactions about our opinion of the show last week. Thousands of people worked really hard and brought fucking amazing A-game production, acting, across the board on that episode. And
that's not the episode with the coffee cup. No, it's the week before.
Yeah, but even so, every episode. So I think for fans to then start abusing or trolling them, like we should be discussing the merits of it. We should be discussing what works for us, what doesn't work for us, and listening and understanding why it didn't work for others or why it did work for others. Because creativity should happen in a wider world. It shouldn't happen in a bubble. It should be for people, and there should be discussion. But to come out and be aggressive against the creators and kind of, that's where I think it's really wrong. It's culture, not politics.
I totally agree. It's interesting. So when I'm watching, I in a bid to not talk quite so much throughout the episode, I try and write down some of my thoughts.
Yes, you do.
So that I can remember what happened for our recaps. And one of them I wrote down is that the lesson I felt that they were trying to teach us with Daenerys' arc.
Yeah.
Is that a child brought up without humility can become a monster. And even though Daenerys' goal was entirely admirable, she thought she was freeing people, she thought she was a liberator, was actually becoming a tyrant herself.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that we need to remember as fans, is that without humility we can become monsters.
Yeah. So
it's for us to be able to say, and fandom, don't get me wrong, fandom is an amazing thing. and I've got so much from it. I know many people who've got so much from being fans of whatever it is they're into. But without the humility to say, that's my opinion, I'm going to respect yours too, and I respect what you've created, but also please respect my feelings that I don't think this is the show that I was expecting.
Yeah.
And then everybody lives in harmony.
And we have to remember that this is a show that at certain points had us romantically invested in incest. So, for whatever else they've done, that's an achievement.
It's so true.
It's a massive achievement. They've really, to do that is just a big, big ask, and they've done it on multiple occasions.
Yeah, I've shipped Cersei and Jaime at points. What the fuck is wrong with me?
Exactly. They've done it. They've continually done it. Like John and Dad. It's a very odd feeling, but they've done it.
Okay, so do you feel like we've kind of covered this episode and that? Because
I feel like
I have questions.
Talk for hours on this, not only because of the last 2 75-minute episodes, but also because of the entire 8 seasons. There's so much, and it's brought us so much over the last 10 years that but I think we've really, it's very interesting that we had such different opinions on episode 5 and episode 6. But maybe that's because of, as you say, maybe that's because we came off the back of last week going, oh my God, it completely didn't deliver for me. So that then somehow turning it around and having this, what seems like amazing prescient forethought is really, really impactful as a viewer.
It is totally. Now, usually towards the end, we start thinking about predictions. Obviously, this is the end of the show. So I propose to you, I'm going to literally...
Is it?
There's that. There is the fact that there are spin-offs.
Mm. Arya going off to search the entire world that's unfound. Like that reads like a...
And I like the idea of exploring the world.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. But no, what I was going to say to you was, and I'm so sorry, Jay, and I'm sorry to the viewers, I'm springing this on him. I'd like to know what your high points of the whole of the Game of Thrones have been. Let's not look forward, let's look back. Normally I'm like, let's not look back, let's forward. But on this particular occasion, it's special.
It's odd because it's been through so many different points that it's actually quite odd to think back on some of them. I think I enjoyed that point where Littlefinger and Varys were they were the ones in charge.
Yeah.
They were.
No one knew they were.
No one knew what they were, but they had a lot of the power, and I think that delivered for me that real. Each week, going, oh my God, who could they whisper in the ear of next week? Oh my God, what bigger revelation is that? Like the moment when Varys explained about, kind of his past and finding out a little bit more about that, and then his tie-in with the Targaryen. I feel like at that point you were constantly finding out these little kind of nitpicky, there's a little nugget of information, and I love that piecing together. It was almost like a massive whodunit, Miss Marple-y kind of thing, but on a massive political scale.
Yeah, but also massive misdirects.
Yeah, huge.
Those characters are both dead.
Yeah.
One in season 7? Yeah, it was season 7 Baelish died, wasn't it? And then obviously season 8. But I feel like there's a lesson in there of like, you can make all these plans. But at the end of the day, you just be cut down. You can have your throat cut by Arya or be killed by a dragon.
But that's what Tyrion said is, I've made a lot of decisions and none of them have worked. You could also look at that in a very different way and say all of your decisions have worked because they've worked toward. But everyone's been working for someone, and we were asked a very interesting question by our pod friends Inside Pop, which is an amazing podcast, and they have been doing so many great episodes on Game of Thrones. I will be looking forward to listening to their discussions on the finale. But they asked us a question about if 0 is, or 1 is a character of absolute evil, like Joffrey's kind of, those really bad characters, and 10 is your angels, your very good characters. So maybe Davos or the young girl, Baratheon's daughter. The really Shireen.
I don't think Davos is at 10.
Okay, he's not. Maybe not 10, but
Shireen
on that scale, who sits at 5? Like, who is anyone kind of that perfect grey, not black, not white? And I think that's really interesting because we've kind of got to this end, and once Dany was, and even Dany wasn't a full Joffrey, like 0 or 1, was she? She was kind of
ages. She was a good 8.
Yeah, and so I feel like we got to the Iron Throne, and actually, if you look at everyone there, they were basically around a 4, 5, or 6. They were neither good nor bad.
Well, at the end, in
this final episode, Jon Snow, Davos, Brienne, Tyrion.
I think Brienne's a hero.
I think Brienne's a massive hero.
So, is Brienne a 1?
I think Brienne, we could definitely say, is a 1. She's always looked out for people.
Very strong moral compass.
And at the end, she was doing exactly what Bran and Tyrion and Samwell have always said, which is stories. She was telling Jaime's story. She was writing scripts. She was, okay, a little bit of artistic license, but history is always told by the lovers and the victors.
Well, she actually just told the truth.
She did tell the truth.
He died looking out for his queen. That is a fact. She omits the part where, he was sleeping with her because she was his sister, and also that she slept with him and all this stuff. But,
I also saw a really interesting thing of
bullet points.
I thought it was a comma at the end rather than a full stop. And I was really expecting her to say, protecting his queen and his child. And then I was going to think, we were meant to think that was Cersei's, but is Brienne going to have a little lion baby? And that's what that was what was in my brain as she was writing that, of it's been long enough for her to realise she's missed it. And we've got a little lion. Sorry.
I can't even speak. My head's over my mouth.
That's what I was expecting her to write.
What have you just done?
I don't know, but
You've blown this wide open.
That was what was in my brain. Sorry. That just, yeah.
No, because he wasn't even if she was, he wouldn't have been protecting it.
He was trying to prevent war.
No. Okay. No, he was trying to fuck his sister again.
Again, yeah. So, but again, that question was really interesting because it did leave us with essentially lords and ladies that, okay, not all of them around that final meeting in the little dragon's pit are good or bad. Some of them are a bit, but
none of them are 10s.
It was taking away that self-centeredness. It was kind of, it was people working on a balanced, I don't know, I still can't quite work it out.
Their centre was more left than right?
I wouldn't say left. It was more focused on everyone. So in previous politics, it would be called something like socialism or Marxism. It would be that slightly more focused on the will of the people. Now, all of them also still have, Sansa's obviously still got her family and her kin, the North. Everyone's also still working on their own ideas, but there's just a bit more of a kind of socialist aspect to that Bran's new world, I would say.
Oh, it's funny you should mention that because I thought it was really, really funny. The idea of so Bran's quite young, so I'm assuming he'll probably live to be an old man. He's rich,
a ripe old age.
He's got his own maester. Yeah,
well, he's got to go back in time and build the wall as well. So
he's got to do all that too. Oh, fucking hell, he's going to be a busy lad.
Busy boy, isn't he?
But just try and imagine being the people of King's Landing and the Six Kingdoms and Tyrion trying to deal with Bran's bullshit.
Oh my God.
The birds are flying north. Or
was it you keep saying with that I've seen it before, so it's what will always come true, or something. It's that kind of soothsayery kind
being your leader.
the army will walk where the army will go. And it's like, yeah, you're sending us there. Yes, well, I've seen it in the future and in the past. But you just told us to go there. Like, it was just getting so annoying.
I feel like through Bran, politics of what we in, say, the UK and the US are used to will be formed. So Bran won't make any laws. Bran will just foresee things, and then if he wants to change them, he'll like send someone to do a very small minor change that will turn the path. And he'll just manipulate shit rather than actually doing anything of worth.
Also, as well as that, how weird is it going to be to actually tell everyone? Like, normally it would just be like, and your new king is such and such, son of such and such. And now it's like, well, what we did was we had a little chat, and then we decided this, and then actually someone said this, and then we thought about this, and then we kind of went, this guy? Like
in the space of, I'm guessing, about 5 weeks, they've had Cersei, then Daenerys, and then a period of nothing.
Yeah.
And
then going, none of you can be liberated, but the North can, because it's Sansa, and technically he's her brother. Like,
Sansa said so. Sorry, Sansa, as everybody was saying that. Sansa said so.
But yeah, I feel like we've gone off.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this episode, but it is fun to make fun of.
It's fun to make fun of, and it's also fun because maybe we all want a little bit of the kind of neat little bow, because it really was a neat little bow, wasn't it? Even down to now, they wouldn't have known this at the time of production, but the backlash after the Battle of Winterfell, with Jon just nodding at Ghost and not having a goodbye, and they must have been sat there when Twitter went mad a few weeks ago with all these people going, he got a fucking 2-hour goodbye with someone he's never met before, and then the fucking dire, people were going mad.
We should have seen this coming.
And then they must have been sat there going, just you wait, final scene. Like, and it was like it.
I'm not sure if I could be that patient.
They tied it off with so many little bows of like, everyone loved Arya when she was this good but fiery.
She's an anti-hero.
Yeah, she's an anti-hero, but she's fiery and she's got a mission. They liked her when she had a mission. And she's now got a mission. And like, it tied off so many little bows of like, and I didn't realise that I was that type of fan.
I enjoyed that. Give me them bows.
Yeah. I always thought I was more like kind of fucking Requiem for a Dream of that person's dying in agony, that person's addicted to fucking that person's doing ass to ass, like, no, but those types of films that really kind of shocked you at that young age of like, oh my god, it didn't do the happy ending. And then now I'm just watching this going, I'm really glad. I would have actually really, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it if Tyrion had been killed. It would have made really fascinating telly.
But I would have been so sad.
Exactly.
I would have cried.
Yeah, but isn't that odd? Like,
but also, Varys wouldn't. I think it made sense that Varys died when he did, because he is not part of this new idea.
We haven't found, what is it, Master of
Whispers,
Master of War. And
what's it? There was a Master of something else. Also, could be a Mistress. God damn it.
But yeah, and I thought that was interesting. If like we haven't found these yet, and it's like I don't think Bran's ever gonna really push for those, because it feels like
surely he's the Master of Whispers.
Yeah, he's just like, yeah, I know you're doing it.
Yeah. Oh, that's happening.
He killed Joffrey.
This is not a world for Baelishes and Varyses, and that's a good thing, because they're manipulators.
So it's kind of like
characters, but they're manipulators.
So it's going to be basically Minority Report, right? Of like Bran is like precog.
Oh shit!
And he's just going to send out Bronn and Tyrion and go, just go up to them and tell them, we know you're a serial killer. Go up to the wall. Go on. And just everyone's going to go up to the wall.
The wall's going to be terrifying. And then Sansa's going to have to deal with them all when they decide to leave the wall. Oh, man. I mean,
that's essentially what's going to happen.
So those are the spin-offs.
Yeah.
Arya goes and discovers
Westeros.
Nothos. Because we've got Westeros and Essos. Is this Nothos? Sothos.
Far Westeros.
Because I always assumed they were based on Wessex and Essex.
Wessex, Essex, Norsex. Norsex.
And Sussex, which is where we live.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But no, there's definitely room for spin-offs, isn't there? Like,
there's loads.
But I think
Sansa trying to stop the evil
sending
people.
people up here
Yeah,
that are just
fuck off,
rubbish.
Bran!
You know they're rapists.
I'm your big sister.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, well,
I could keep going for hours.
It's the end of it's the end of so much. You asked me the hard question. Go on then. What's your fucking standout moment?
Okay, well, there's a...
I just realised that we somehow talked
I got away
around
with that
yeah.
one, didn't I? Okay, well, there is a moment that always sticks out in my mind that I always want more clarity on.
Hot pie.
Well, obviously, where the fuck is hot pie?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully he's just making pies and having a nice time.
Oh, that would have been lovely if he'd been on the ship with Arya.
We're making pies for her. No, a moment that really sticks out in my mind, actually, is I always want to call them the Children of Men, Children of the Forest. And when they create the Night King, I'm really intrigued by the Children of the Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that scene because I'm just like, what the fuck?
What's
this ancient history
what did you do? Yeah.
that you're showing me? So that's a stand-up moment for me.
Well, I think you're in luck then, because I think the spin-offs are more likely to be prequels. I think they're going to go into like the Aegon year, like the not Dany's part, like the past Aegon, first of his name and stuff.
Yeah.
I think it was the books were called like the Hedge Knight.
There's actually books of those.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. Okay.
And he's done a lot of like stuff like that, going deep into. So I don't think it will be Westeros. I think maybe one of them will be, so that they can get a few famous faces in. But I think
interesting. Very interesting. I would totally watch Game of Thrones ancient history thing. I'm not sure if I'd watch a Targaryens rule the world thing.
But would it be too much fantasy? Like,
what's the thing? If it's ancient, I'll buy it.
Okay.
If it's medieval, I don't think I'll buy it. I've never been a medieval fan.
The Hedge Knight is very much like jousting and tourneys and stuff like that.
I like ancient and I like modern history.
So
Anything in between is a bit dull.
You kind of want like Alexander the Great, but in Essos rather than...
Yeah, I'm amazed that I like Game of Thrones because it's so not my...
That first season is so like, tourneys and hunting boar.
That's why I don't like it. They keep killing animals.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of animals there.
Anyway, right, okay.
Wow,
it's over. It's happened.
I know. I think that's the thing that keeps hitting me is it's just like, when you invest in something in this much, and as we said, we've watched this with so many different people over the years. We've watched it in so many different places. Like it's been a real.
When we first started watching this, we had a sheet up on the wall held by bulldog clips with a projector we'd borrowed from a friend, which we've still never come back. Projected, and it was like 5 foot wide?
Yeah.
But on a sheet with loads of creases and shit, so you could barely see anything.
It was alright. It's much brighter back then. I don't think we would have watched Winterfell, wouldn't it?
No, it's true. Yeah, there was no winter had not come.
But yeah, it's I think there's so much I want to say, and I don't really know what to like. Yeah,
I feel like unlike George R.R. Martin, D.B. Wise, and David Benioff, we don't know how to end this episode.
No, I think George R.R. Martin, I kind of see where he's coming from now. Of like, how do you wrap things up when you open up so many loopholes?
Well, the possibility to open up. Well, yeah. I mean, I assume he would, because obviously in a book you've got more to play with, time-wise and stuff.
Well, and also, one of the biggest criticisms of the last 2 seasons has been that it's rushing too much stuff. I think it seems so odd that HBO have been like, nope, done. Because it feels like if you read online that people are still up for being with these characters. They probably could have got...
I've not read any of the books.
Nope, me neither.
You've not read any of them,
Not even a word.
I'm wondering, actually, because he's not released the last 2 books in the series.
Like
as
3
far as we
behind
know,
him.
it's so maybe he wraps it up in the next one, and then book 7, is it 7? Book the one after that is like just all the stuff that we want to see, but we're not gonna.
But yeah, I think it's I think 8 works.
8 series.
I can't
seasons.
think of a drama that has gone past 7 or 8 in any way successfully.
Or I take it we're not going to count all the different variations of Star Trek because they're all technically different series.
So I wouldn't cast them. As we know, X-Files dies after season 7.
It dies and it goes to hell.
Mad Men just about kept going, and I think it was 7 seasons, was it? Or
7.
Yeah. I feel like they maybe knew of like, actually, if we keep it going, it loses. Like, how many millions have just watched this? Something like 19.
As we started recording this episode, I saw on Twitter that it, I think it was 19.3 million, which is like breaks all HBO records. I haven't clicked on it, so I don't know. But I believe that is probably US only because.
But I'm pretty sure
it had yet to finish screening in the UK on its official time slot, even though we can all access it on Now TV legally.
I'm pretty sure that's up there with, like that's unheard of nowadays.
These days, I think 5 million is a good rating.
So I think cleverly they want to go out on fucking massive numbers. Everyone talking about, say what you want about episode 5, The Bells. Every single person on Twitter, and even the people that weren't watching, there were so many tweets going, I don't watch Game of Thrones, and such as like even people that weren't watching it were talking about the fact that they don't watch Game of Thrones. Like, it was such a huge deal, and maybe they knew that carrying on to season 10, it dwindles, and then you get that kind of Handmaid's Tale effect of people just going, I'm done.
Oh yeah, and also the writers have got to keep their interest going.
Well, they're moving on to Star Wars.
Precisely.
And I wonder how that news is going to change this week, because they dropped that the week after the episode where they perhaps weren't, of the highest regard on the internet. And I wonder how much that's going to change this week. If people were actively unexcited about them taking over Star Wars, and I wonder if this week it's going to be like, oh my god, because I'm up for them. I think overall they have taken this show and very successfully adapted it through all of its different iterations.
So the Star Wars are doing are the origins of the Force.
We don't know. We don't know.
There's no actual confirmation.
We just know that they are signed on for the next post Skywalker phase of Star Wars.
I understand that they're signed on for the next phase of Star Wars. I'm not sure if I'm signed on. I need more information.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I want Star Wars to carry on forever and ever and ever.
No.
I think it's something that should be compact.
But I'm talking about this of overall, as showrunners and creators, they created a show about medieval times that you got into.
Yeah.
They then carried that through with probably scenes and series and episodes that will constantly be in those type of top 5 things of OMG moments of TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'll be there. They also had some of the most rewarding character arcs throughout the series, in terms of if you put it up against other things. So I think overall, as showrunners and creators, I'm excited to see what they do next, whether that's Star Wars or whether that's something else. But if it is Star Wars, I'm actually excited to see that type of world building. And now I know, obviously, George R.R. Martin, but they're taking over George R.R. Lucas's, and that will be interesting to see if they can bring as much world building and stuff to that.
Yes. On a similar note, I'm excited to see, I think her name is Bernadette Caulfield, where she goes next, because she's the casting director.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
The casting is fantastic.
Thank you for
and I'm
many
really
of these
interested
people.
to know where she goes next, because I want to know what the next new wave of amazing actors is
Yeah.
going to be.
Absolutely, because you look around at this cast now and just go, every one of them is
Well, yeah, we've got Dark
top
Phoenix.
bill. Yeah.
I mean, Peter Dinklage has already been in quite a lot already.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing next, but I'm very interested to see it.
It's given them the platform.
Lena Headey is just fantastic. Like, there is just some of the casting, all of the casting here is just really, really good. I'm so excited to see what she does next, because I want to follow that show. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we could enthuse about this all the day, but
let's wrap it up, because otherwise we'll just be sitting here going, oh, and then that bit.
Exactly. That's what I keep thinking about. I was just literally thinking like, oh, I want to talk about Grey Worm. I want to talk about, and it's just like there's so many moments of like.
Grey Worm is so hurt.
I know.
He's going to North.
I know.
Oh. Grey Worm. It's all gonna be okay.
It's okay.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah. Wow. We'd love to hear, and obviously we'll be on social media now after our blackout for the last 36 hours. We'd love to hear what everyone thinks about this show. We'd love to hear about kind of what you think going forward, because maybe Brienne and baby Jamie is a new thing. Yeah,
well, what are your ideas for the spin-offs, guys? Because as yet, I don't believe anything has been confirmed for those, because obviously it would just give spoilers. So I'd love to know everyone's ideas.
Oh my God, Brienne gives birth and then unfortunately is cut down on a diplomatic mission. Tyrion, Bronn, and Davos, 3 men and a little baby in Westeros.
Are you proposing that they get rid of the only woman on the council?
No, I just wanted 3 men and a little baby in Westeros.
Maybe they can just be babysitting while she's doing some important stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I'd watch that. I would.
Yeah, she's on a diplomatic mission.
Watch that. Anyway.
Sorry.
Thank you so much for listening to all of our Game of Thrones recaps, our Thrones Downs.
Let us know what series we should do next.
Oh my God, what weekly series should we do?
What should we pick up?
Not one with too many episodes, because I get tired very easily. But yes, thank you so much for being with us on this journey. It's been epic.
Thank you so much. 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 Thank you.
I don't know what else to say, but I'll use Jay's singing as a bed.
Thank you so much.
Tune in next time for, well, we've got State of the Sitcom more to come, and whatever show we end up doing next. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you.